Candid Conversations with Carla. Well, today we have the awesome Brittany. Hey, Brittany.
How you doing?
I'm good. So, Brittany, I just wanted to know a little bit about you. Where are you actually from?
Well, I was born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my family, we moved to Dallas, Texas at 7. So I've pretty much been here my whole life. So I'm a Texas native.
Yes. So you might as well just say you're from Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
All right. What do you actually do?
So I'm a research analyst. And so this is from my background. If I can go deep into my education,
Mm-hmm.
I received my BS in psychology with a double major of global business.
Wow.
Yes, so touching on both, but I haven't really gone into the global business venture just yet. Maybe, I don't know what God is going to do with that. But as far as psychology, I transitioned to grad school, which I studied applied cognition and neuroscience here at UT Dallas, which is University of Texas at Dallas. So
Wow.
now I'm a research analyst and just going through cases of different diagnoses. Majority are mental health, which is, it could be depression, anxiety, etc. So it's a pretty vast field that's growing, unfortunately, because of the times that we're living in. So
Right. So, do you actually use your knowledge like in everyday settings?
I try not to.
Okay.
I want to turn off my brain.
Oh, that's good.
But I'm a thinker, so I have to analyze at work. Therefore, sometimes I catch myself like being an analytical individual. So I may be sitting and looking at something or someone, and I'm just analyzing. Of course, not trying to be their doctor or
Right.
psychiatrist or psychologist or anything. But when that becomes a part of your life, then it transitions into your personal life sometimes. So
Oh, definitely.
I try not to apply it to my personal life. I don't like to mix the two. So
Yeah. I mean, just naturally, I've studied a lot about psychology, and I use it. I do actually use it when I'm just talking to people because I want to understand how their perception of a thing or, the background that they may be coming from. So
yeah, it's helpful. I mean, it definitely does bridge the gap when it comes to relationships and understanding the importance of mental health.
yes.
In general, that's very important to me. That's near and dear. So, I try to be an advocate.
Yeah.
To, take time, pour into yourself, and of course, have a spiritual and a connection and relationship with God first, and then everything else will fall in place. But we do have a responsibility to ensure that we are healthy here.
Yes.
So this can be healthy and everything else can be healthy.
Yes.
So,
What made you pursue this?
well, growing up, I actually wanted to be a tornado chaser. So, growing up in Texas, and then of course Oklahoma is Tornado Alley. So I was eager and determined to be a tornado chaser, and then that changed to police officer. Then that changed, and I finally settled because I loved working with kids, and I was intrigued about how they develop. So I first studied the first year of child psychology.
Wow.
Then I looked at the career path, and I said, no, this is you can't really transition in many ways, so it doesn't translate very well. So that's when I spoke with one of my mentors, excuse me, and they just advised that I take my passions and I marry that with studying and research. So essentially, I started studying for sports psychology. And I applied to grad school for sports psychology, but that's not where God wanted me to be. I was denied 2 different graduate schools for whatever reason. And I applied to graduate school here, University of Texas at Dallas, coming back home. let me back up. I graduated from University of Houston, so I moved to Houston. That's not very far, 4 hours down the street. And then after undergrad, that's when I did apply for grad school. I got accepted into the graduate program of applied cognition neuroscience. Out of all the grad schools that I could apply to, this was the hardest.
Wow.
And God saw it fit for me to, study there. So that's why I planted myself, and now I'm here.
Awesome. So now I know that you have this understanding that our plans are not always God's plans for us. Did you have that understanding back then?
I did, but sometimes especially being young, you have your whole life planned out.
Right.
This and this and this way at this timing, and of course God's timing is not ours, and that was a hard lesson to learn. Even now, I'm learning that lesson to be patient, and that taught me a lot of patience. I ran into a few obstacles and learned from others and my mistakes, but yeah, it was a learning curve for me. But I'm glad He took me that route and brought me back home,
right?
Because a lot of things happened. It was a domino effect after that. So I'm grateful to be back here in Dallas.
Good. So I know you from our writing group. How did you even come to the Potter's House? And
so I always think of myself as one of the OGs of the Potter's House because we came when Bishop. It was one of the first years, so we came in '98. I do.
Wow.
So I was a little shorty back then. So from there I grew. I've been fed since. That's why I haven't left. But it's since then, I've going back to Houston or moving to Houston and coming back, I decided, hey, I want to be a part of ministry. I was in ministry in Houston when I had a church home there. And then I prayed about it, and when I got into the writing ministry, because I've always done writing, I've always been interested in the research side of things, and then I said, you know what, I need to write something that is pertaining to my life to see how it can touch others. So, and God really put that on me heavy. I would say I was the first time I came into the writing ministry was in 2018. And of course, that's before a lot of people moved here and transitioned. And so at the time, I was pregnant with my firstborn, my first son. And unfortunately, a couple months later, I lost my son to in preterm labor, childbirth. And so after that, I said, I'm not doing it. It did knock me off. I said, I'm okay. I'll be a member, but right now I'm not understanding my life right now. So that kind of broke me. It was a literal breaking moment. Losing a child is not. It doesn't feel good. I don't know anybody that will say, "Oh yeah, it was great. It helped me grow." No, being real, it broke me to the core. So after then, I came back for a little bit, and then I went back into hiding, and then less than 8-9 months, I had my second born, my rainbow baby, and now he's 5, and you've seen him. He's a part of the ministry. He could be a mascot for the ministry at this point. But so he's thriving, he's healthy. So that's when I decided, you know what, I want to get back in ministry as of last year, 23, excuse me, 23, 24. These years have gone by so quickly. 23. And of course, we went to the open call, or I went to open call with me and my son, and that experience was crazy because Danielle, and shout out to Danielle and Cheryl, love y'all. They had me crying. in front of everybody. I was like, look, this is not how it's supposed to be.
Really?
It was, yeah, I was like, I don't cry. But Danielle looked me in my eyes. She said, you belong here. And, you know, that touched me. And Cheryl just reiterated, hey, this is your family now. And that's when I felt it in my spirit. Like, I have to be here. Like, I have to get my story out here. And since then, you know, with the presence of you and all the rest of the writers, y'all got, you know, pushed me to be a better writer, creator, that we are, that Danielle stressed about, that we are creators. So yeah, been here since, and now I'm ready to hit the ground running.
Good. Really enjoyed about our group is that I've seen so much growth. Just not in our gifts, because, you know, and you should hone your gifts, by the way. Do anything outside of like writing?
So I have a huge interest for sports, and I'm an athlete. So I played since I was able to walk. But I did have some roadblocks, challenges. The first, I would say, 10 years of my life, I've been in and out of ICU upwards of like 9 times.
Wow.
Yeah, respiratory, my lungs were just not what it should be. So God used me as a way to be a miracle. I'm literally a miracle baby. I'm a miracle child. You know, God, I was not even supposed to live past a certain age because I was in and out of ICU so often, and just tired. And you know, one thing, going back to the bishop in the Potter's house, the last time I was in a hospital, that's when I was I think 10 years old, and I was like, I'm done. I made up in my mind. I said, I'm tired. You know, being a kid, and you know, you're hooked up with all these ventilators, and you're tired. So my mom reached out to the Potter's house for prayer, and one thing that I was grateful for, the next day they sent a minister out, and they came out with flowers, and I was still hooked up, but I was still alert, and I heard her whisper. She was praying with my mom and my dad, and she was praying for me. She said, this is the last time you're gonna be in ICU. And I was like, okay, you know, I see it to believe it. My mom, from what I can remember, she told me literally 24 hours later, they started unhooking stuff. Later, 24 hours later, they moved me.
Wow.
That was the last time I was in a hospital.
Wow.
So I became a top tier athlete. All 4 years of high school, I made all academic. Because with my parents, academics were very important. But I never looked back, and that was, you know, God tested me at such a young age, like my faith. That's when God started building my faith, and I'm grateful for those moments, because, you know, I know some other child is going through the same thing, or someone else is going through as an adult. And, you know, it's so important to understand that we have a purpose and a plan. And as it says in the Bible, God has an expected end for us.
Yes.
And so I've always hung on to that. Whenever life gets hard, I look back and I'm like, God, you did that for me.
Wow, Brittany. Like, I got history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of you coming through, of you being faithful.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So yes, but athlete, I played about 4 or 5 sports, but my main sport was basketball. And that's when I didn't get recruited at a high school for a scholarship. That's when I went deeper into academics, and I said, you know what? Fast forward to now, I said I'm gonna start a sports podcast because I have so much knowledge about it and just the ins and outs. That's my passion. So I'm gonna start that soon.
Okay. Do you have a name for it yet?
Ooh, not yet.
Okay. But that's okay. That's okay.
It's in the process.
Works.
Yeah.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know all of this about you. Okay, I think that's thing number one. But two, having your faith built through such a challenging time, especially in childhood, what would you actually say to someone who is almost at their brink of giving up? What would you say to encourage someone?
I would say, just based upon my experience and my faith in God. First, let me just say we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Let me start that off, because being a Christian, it doesn't, or being deep in religion, it doesn't warrant you to be perfect.
That's right.
I'm
glad you said that too, by the way.
I mean, and we're living in a time to where we need disciples that are not so much working in the church necessarily. I mean, I heard PT and Bishop preach about that, and teach about it. We are talking to people that have a past, because we have a past. We may still be living in what God is trying to deliver us from.
That's right.
And heal us from and make us whole. So, the best thing I can say is, it sounds like a cliche, but fight the good fight of faith.
Yeah.
It says that, God will honor faith the size of a mustard seed. And that's all I had as a kid. And sometimes that's all I have. Especially when you're mentioning the economy and just everything that is happening. Think prices are going up, and people are losing their jobs, and it's health issues. So I would tell that individual who's experiencing the challenges to lean into God. You don't have to come perfect.
That's right.
He hears our moans and groans, and I can be a testament to that even if you don't have the right words to say, it doesn't have to be eloquent.
That's right.
And God will honor that, because he sees our heart. So
yes, I love that. Because what happens when our faith fails? And it's not dependent upon how much we even believe that. He is the author and the finisher of our faith. So he gives us, he may give us one thing to bring us to a certain level of faith, and then he uses that thing so we can believe him for the next thing. But what happens if our faith fails? I believe that God actually, he wants to show up and show out. He wants to blow our minds, but sometimes we handcuff him, and even with the test of not removing that current trial, immediately, or when we think that he should remove it, it's working something. We might not want to hear this, but he's working something on the inside of us, out. And even if it's patience, the scripture says, let patience have her perfect work. And so God is always, there's purpose in the wait. There's purpose even in the pain. And I always say, be authentic to what you really feel, because that is what causes and brings the oil, the anointing.
I love that. I love that. And sorry to interject, but
no, it's good.
I love that point in which as far as be your authentic self, who God called you to be, because like you just stated, it I guess it brings forth the oil. It brings forth and brings out what God has put down in you.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important not to look at your neighbor.
That's right.
Stay in your lane.
That's good.
It's and even when it comes down to your family, at this point in time, we need to be so serious about how we're aligned with God, because your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, you're so accustomed to taking what they have to say and put it on your shoulders. But now it's time to hear exactly what God has to say, because the delays, for me, they have to stop.
That's right.
So I want to stay locked in, no matter what it looks like. And even, if you feel because that's a conviction of mine. Even if you feel like you have to set boundaries, family, friend, whoever.
No, that's good.
Set them.
That's good.
Because they may not understand what God's purpose is for you, but God is speaking to you. You know that. That's okay, and they'll be okay.
That's right.
They'll be okay. Once they see the end result and how it comes full circle, then you can say, I stayed the course and I listened to God, because that's all that matters.
You know, the Bible says that a prophet is not honored in his own country. In other words, the people that you grew up around, they're comfortable around you, or you're comfortable around them, and that very thing, or just even that very scenario, can be a hindrance, because you can't grow. Sometimes you have to move out of the city that you were raised in. Sometimes you can't stay in that same neighborhood that you grew up in, and because it keeps you in a certain mindset,
Yeah.
And so we have to make sure that we don't allow even ourselves to be a crush to others, and then others to us, And so I know that when, I grew up in a very, my mom lived wholly before us and everything, and I didn't realize it, but it wasn't until that she left that I developed a deeper relationship with God, because in the back of my mind, she was praying for me. In the back of my mind, I felt a certain security, knowing that she was a prayer warrior. So we want to, it's just good to understand that our family is not always in our journey, in our Christian journey, for what God really wants to do in our lives, right?
That's what I can testify to that. One great point that my counselor stated, she said, you have to embrace the ebbs and flows of relationships.
Yes.
Or you will be crushed.
Yeah.
You'll be disappointed. And in this season, I've learned that my family can't be there all the time.
That's right.
My family don't have the answers all the time.
That's right.
And I've been accustomed to that, with coming together and figuring things out. But sometimes God puts you in a season where it's just like, you don't have to lean on me. You have to really intentionally listen to me. That's
good, because sometimes it's not for you to even discuss certain seasons until you're out of that season, or it is just between you and God.
Absolutely.
He wants us to solely depend on Him, because you know what, when He says something, we can take it to the bank,
right? It won't bounce.
That's right. But sometimes when we feel like we have our crew, can you imagine? Because God is a jealous God.
He is.
And He doesn't want anyone to get His glory for what only He can do. It's Him. Even when we're with our crew, it's Him.
He don't care about that.
No.
I think PT said something, or someone said something. It may have been PT. I listen to a lot of inspiration and certain sermons, but I think he said that Jesus or his disciples didn't care if they were liked. Meaning, and I also read something in the Bible, I may be wrong, with the angels in heaven, they didn't care about anybody around Jesus. They were focused on building His kingdom. And that is so telling of God doesn't care how He gets the glory. He gonna get it at the end of the day. And once we get that, then everything else we can release and say, you know what? And I know it's hard. It's a challenge. It can be a challenge, but I feel like that is a big, huge key that unlocks the door to a lot of things that are locked up in our lives, and that may not be it. That just may be one door open to get to the other door.
That's right.
So you never know, but You are absolutely correct. Is we have to stay locked in.
Yeah.
That's my motto right now. Stay locked in. Everything else doesn't matter. I'm like a little person on the island at this point.
So, I hear you saying stay locked in. How do you stay focused with so many distractions? You know, anytime that God is calling you higher or God is calling you to something, seems like all these distractions start popping up. What is one? I heard you earlier say that you know you listen to a lot of inspiration. Is there anything else that you do to keep from being distracted?
I mean, it used to be. I used to be in the gym all the time. But recently, the last few months, I had some little health challenges. You know, and I'm getting that corrected within my body. It's recovering, and so that used to be my go-to. You know, mind and body has to be aligned. So I have to make sure that my body is moving constantly. So that's my way to put on my music and get my body moving and to release stress.
Yes.
That's the best way to release stress. But also, I love to drive. I'll hop in my car, I'll put on some music, and that is it. Like and that allows me to visualize what I want. That allows me to think or not to think. You know, a lot of times I don't want to think, you know, because sometimes we overthink.
Yeah.
So I just let the music just play and just, you know, I purposely go when the sun is setting because it's aesthetically pleasing to my mind and my body. So, you know, things like that. And it's the small, simple things that helps me you know, unwind and release. So I know it's boring, but I've gotten to this age where, you know, like I said, a drive, a nice little 30-minute drive or the gym, that helps me. So
I know just as women, as mothers, sometimes we tend to overthink because we are trying to prevent things from happening, or we're just trying to stay 2 and 3 steps ahead. Is there anything else, like when you're at home, that you use to, you know, not overthink? Maybe even something that God has told you, right? Or
of course, writing.
yeah.
Writing is something that you can release, even if it's just a whole jumble of words. You know, because those jumble words can spell out something meaningful.
Oh, that's
if
good.
That makes sense.
Yes.
So, you know, it's as far as journaling and just getting what's all on your heart out there. It's therapy in itself.
Yes.
You know? Also, just to be real and transparent, crying.
Yes.
You know, I heard Anita Phillips, sorry. I remember a few years ago, she said, sometimes you just gotta cry and cry some more and cry again and cry a little bit more and cry some more. And, you know, I was like, no, because I don't like to cry. I don't like to show that type of emotion in front, especially, you know, in front of others. But when I tell you that's a release, it's just like, oh my gosh, you like, you know, you have the best sleep, let me tell you. Sleep like a baby. But, you know, that I'm starting to take that into account as I get older, that it's God, your tears, God collects.
Yes.
And, you know, he's there with you. And I a lot of times I can feel his presence, like, I needed that. But, you know, that's on a spiritual side. That's what I do. But other things that can, what I love is I love documentaries. I love docu-series. I love, you know, anything that I can, looking at someone else's life and how that is depicted. So it's one of my favorite things to do, just to sit on my couch, melt in my couch, get my snacks, get my wine. Yes, I drink. And my wine. And I'll watch my documentaries, and I can watch it for hours at a time. Just binge. But yeah, that also brings out a little bit more creativity in me to how I want my story to be told. So
I know that you said that you're about to start a podcast,
Mhm.
a sports podcast at that. I think that's really awesome and different because you are a woman
Mhm.
who wants to do a sports podcast. Wow. Okay.
I don't think it's enough. There are women out there that do sports podcasts, but I don't feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't think we get the exposure like we should because we're women. We don't know what we're talking about, stuff like that. But you'll be surprised. I've had conversations with other women who, I mean, know years of stats and a certain player or players or organization, and that's me. Like I love and also marrying that with mental health for athletes.
Yes.
It's so many athletes, and I'm so shocked that once they retire or they're out of the league, their mental state declines.
Wow.
And that's only because of the notoriety and the just they're like a lowercase gods to a lot of kids and even other adults. So when you take that away, you have nothing unless you had your degree and you move on to something else, another career. But a lot of these athletes, they spend their money, and a lot of the money is spent on their family.
Yes.
And they get into debt, and so that's another thing that they put on their plate. So I feel for them because that's all they know. That's their passion, and they don't have enough resources and support to me, when they are out of the league or they are just working a normal job. To us, it's like, okay, get over it.
Right.
We're working a normal job anyway. You get over it. But that's heavy. Just imagine, you going out of something that you have a love for and a passion, and you can't go back to that anymore.
Right.
That's that can be heavy on the heart. So that was my story, because playing sports and I didn't get recruited, that crushed me.
Yeah.
I really thought I was gonna
right.
play basketball in college, and my dreams was to play in the WNBA. I even had silly dreams as far as dunking at 5'3", but it took a while. It literally took like 4 or 5 years for me to mentally get my mind, because that's what I was dedicated to day in, day out. We had 2-a-days, morning practice and after school practice. So this was our lives. That's all we did other than academics, and that impacted me. So I said, just imagine how it impacts the Durants, and I think he'll be good, but other athletes, no name athletes.
Right.
So that's I would love one day, just, like I said, you're an inspiration. I would love to have a podcast with those athletes. I don't necessarily want a podcast or an interview with the LeBrons and the Durants and the Currys. My focus is on those who have been forgotten.
Wow. That's deep. Wow. So, outside of outside of this particular podcast, the one that you're about to create, do you have anything else that's going on or that you're working on?
Of course, being a mom, getting my son in sports. Now, his dad and I, we're both athletes. He played soccer overseas, so he played semi-pro and overseas, and so we have the athlete, and he's going to be an athlete.
Yeah.
I'll be shocked. Not pressuring my child. I'll be shocked if he didn't become an athlete, but just enjoying the time with my son, and just molding him and shaping his mind and helping him along the way to, because he can be whatever he wants to be. You know, he has autonomy. I'm not gonna force nothing on him, but yeah, just the building blocks for my podcast. Getting back in the gym, getting back healthy. I want to travel a little bit more and link up with like minds like you, and see where that goes. Right now, I'm in the phase of hearing from God and my next steps.
That's good.
So,
you know what? I actually want to ask you about that because I know that a lot of people don't really feel like they can talk to God. What does that look like for you when you say that you want to hear from God and wait for instructions? And like, what does that look like for you?
So of course, there's a piece in that, and that's patience. And sometimes, we just want the answers right then and there. Sometimes we just be honest, we don't hear from God. Not just yet. So in that time, he always does. If he doesn't speak directly, he always speaks through somebody or something. It's amazing. He speaks through somebody or something, and how I bring it to God is I keep it simple. Like, God, I always ask God for forgiveness, so that I can get everything that He wants out of me. And then I ask Him, what do you want from me, of me? What do you require of me? Decrease me completely, increase yourself, because I don't want to be in the answer. I want to be a part of the answer, but I don't want to be in the answer, meaning dictating what you have to say to me. So other times I just, of course, going to scripture, meditating, and that can be just sitting and doing absolutely nothing. That was hard for me. I used to be a person that I thrived off of noise and distraction. Thrived. I'm talking TV and music in the background on my phone. And I found out real quick that's not how you get answers. So had to shut everything down and just be.
Yes.
It's simple, and it's again, as cliche as that maybe sound, just be. That's right. However that looks like, however it is comfortable for you to get in the presence of God. You do it. You don't have to be where you just got a prayer cloth on the floor all the time. Your word open. Yes, sometimes you got to get like that.
Yes.
Other times it's just, you can be at your computer and just be like, you can close your eyes. Yeah. Let me hear from you, or not, whatever.
Yes. And just have a praying spirit, throughout your day. You don't have to be in a specific position, especially when we're in the workplace or the marketplace. You can pray to God inwardly. I love how you stated that, you ask God, what do you require of me? I think so many times we go before God and we are giving Him our list instead of asking Him what His list is. That's very key. And when we take care of God's business, He will take care of our business.
Absolutely, yeah.
So awesome.
100% agree with that.
So awesome. So, is there anything you would like our audience to know more about you?
I'm not perfect, and I love it.
Yeah.
I have many flaws, and
we all do.
Absolutely, and I want it to be that way because that's how God intends us to be, so that we can usher in other people that think they should be a certain way to get in the presence of God, to be in the house of God. We are very flawed. With that being stated, I am a work in progress. I don't know everything, but what I do know is that I know that God has a lot of great things for me that I will obtain. I know
Yes.
that, it may be a little boisterous, but I know that I'm a great mind.
Yes.
And I know that I'm a great person,
Yeah.
inside and out. And that's because, of course, like all of us, we were made in God's image.
That's right.
So,
That's right. And I love how you stated that we are all flawed. But you know what? There's beauty in our flaws.
mhm.
It is the flaws are how we know that He's our strength in those weaknesses,
Mhm.
in those flaws, and we want to please Him.
Mhm.
You know, and I often think about how people think, "Oh, Carla, you always seem to have the right answers." There's a reason why. I have some answers. It's because I done went through the
Absolutely.
through the storm.
Yeah.
I done been through something. And we gain that knowledge through experience with God. I often hear that, "Oh, Carla, you're so calm," but I was a red hot chili pepper. Okay, I had to have the last say. I used to have to, express what was on my mind.
Mhm.
But it is, you know what? When I saw that it was driving up my blood pressure, when I saw that,
Guilty. I'm guilty.
So we learn, even Jesus learned the things, he learned obedience through the things that he suffered.
Mhm.
So we all have something about us that we cry to God about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So
Mhm.
you stated that you were, a red hot chili pepper.
Mhm. Yeah.
So besides, your increased blood pressure, what made you turn that corner and say, you know what, I can't continue to do this? Like,
Well, when I realized that, I would see people's reaction to me. But not just that. I didn't feel any better
mm,
about, expressing what I had to get off my chest. I didn't feel better about it. Like, as a matter of fact, I think I felt worse. It seemed like the more I talked about it, because we got to tell our friends, then we got to tell the whole world, And I wasn't even on social media, so I can't even imagine, expressing myself in that space. But what I would say is that I didn't feel any better.
so it's just like you feel like, okay, the feeling of it slowly broke you down to where it's just like,
Of course,
I got
yes.
this, I have to stop this. It's
Yes.
affecting this, that, and the other, and yeah, that was your brick wall. Like,
Yes. We think that, oh, I gotta tell my side, or I gotta defend myself, and that's when we talk about the scriptures. It's not just something we quote. It's not just when the word says, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay."
Mhm.
We can take that to the bank and understand, not and just really having the heart of not really wanting that person to suffer. Okay, I want to put that out there, but understand that God sees everything,
Mhm.
and there's nothing that is going to go unnoticed. And whatever we sow, we're going to reap. So guess what? If I decide to take vengeance and not wait on God, and go ahead and bestow vengeance on someone, guess what? Because that's something I'm sowing.
Mhm.
That's going to come back to me.
Right.
And so that's why it's so important to, we don't have to come to our own defense. We don't have to be our own lawyer. We don't have to go on social media and put people on blast. Oh, I'm going to expose you. You did A, B, C, D. Because truthfully, what is it going to accomplish?
Right.
And if you've done everything you can in your own power to try to come to an understanding, first of all, we need to understand that there are people who are committed to misunderstanding you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant for you to be one. It's not meant for you. Sometimes there's just going to be misunderstanding. So what do you do in that? You got to choose to move forward. You got to choose not for that not to hinder you, you know,
That's
as a
real.
person.
That's real. That's like, and a lot of people need to hear that. They need to rewind and go back 30, 45 seconds. But yeah, that's very true. Like you just stated, not everyone is not going to understand. They're not going to be receptive. They're not.
That's
gonna,
right.
Their job is to be combative, to go toe to toe. Sometimes. And you know, going off that point, for me personally, I've always felt like I had to be a fighter. And I know there's a lot, especially African American women. We are deemed, and that's another passion of mine, is pouring into other African American women because we are the strongest, but sometimes we don't want to be strong, and that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so you know, with me growing up and having to fight for my life, translated to I have to fight.
Yes.
And that could be my siblings. It can be, you know, sometimes my parents to get my point across, to be heard, to be seen. And I just felt like I needed to, if need be, fight. And, you know, I think the first person that said, I think my late sister, she was my big sister. She passed away in 2009. And she alluded to, you know, you don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes it's up to you if you want to fight a battle or not.
Yes.
And that resonated with me because I'm just like, it's so easy just to say, okay, that's cool, you can have it. But our pride a lot of times don't allow us to do that.
You just hit something. Our pride and our ego. And that's what usually drives us to defend ourselves. Because I don't want to look like this. Oh no, who do you think you talking to? Like, you know, just having that look of being weak, you know, the perception of, you know, what will others think. But really, when we step out of pride and out of ego and understand that, you know what am I trying to really accomplish? Am I really trying to come to an understanding, or do I just want to be right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
that's a huge question, you know. And I think once people start understanding that if we work together, I know that's a stretch, but if we come together and actually communicate in a way that is functional, not dysfunctional, what we disagree with or what we felt hurt about. A lot of times in family, you know, especially I'm Black family, we have a lot of dysfunction as far as communication. There's a breakdown because we feel like we have to be right. We feel like we want to get the last word out. You know, and like you said, it's the pride of, you know, well, I want to say what I want to say. Sometimes it's you have to swallow that pill. You have to say, you know what, it's not worth it to lose this relationship. It's not worth it to, you know, go the whole day just feeling like I've put a whole weight on my shoulder because this is still lingering. That doesn't feel good. Like I want to get that out. I want to get this off of me. Right. You know, so yeah, it's definitely, you know, you check, you know, if that person don't want to talk, if they don't want to, you know, make amends, I leave it alone. Yes. It's like, okay, let me go back into my lane.
And then, you know, there's a saying that you can't reason with an angry man, right? And there's a reason why that is. So even if it's not in that moment, right? Because, you know, words can be exchanged that literally are, you know, can feel unforgivable. And so it's okay to take a breather and come back and really talk with a sensible head when you're not in the emotion of it. you know?
Right.
And I think that's really important to really seek peace, really. Peace and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so, wow, that was a good point about pride.
Yeah, trust me, I've had, it comes up every once in a while.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's, again, imperfections.
Yeah. And you know what? In this life, conflict, you're going to come across conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It's inevitable. So, no matter how peaceable you might try to come across, sometimes there's just disruption.
Absolutely.
So,
and maybe it's necessary.
Yeah. I think it causes growth, because how do you handle an uncomfortable situation? How do you handle conflict?
Mm-hmm.
And that really shows character.
It does.
Yes.
It builds character. And
yes.
Stretches you.
Yes. All right. Well, how can anyone reach you in the event they want to start following your future podcast?
So I can absolutely provide you. I have a YouTube, so
Okay.
I can provide that information.
Okay.
And I appreciate, the invite. It was very surprising, but I'm honored to be a part of this journey that you are embarking on. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, it was an honor to have you here. And you guys, I will see you next week on Tuesday at 7:30 Central Standard Time here on Candid Conversations with Carla. All right.